Hello again and welcome to the Genestealer Cult Tactics video, but also kind of pseudo-Imperial Guard Tactics video. So for those of you that don't like watching the Genestealer Cult Tactics video, please, for the love of the Emperor, just listen to this one, because I promise you there is very little heresy in this video. Okay, very little. So before we get into today's video, I'd like to say a big thank you to Dustin Martin Boyd for sending in some updated pictures of his fantastic Beastman army. Dustin has sent in pictures of this army before, but when he last sent pictures in, I remember distinctly that these Beastmen were trying to find redemption, and it appears that they have decided the way they're going to find redemption is by worshipping the four-armed Emperor and not the real Emperor. I'm a little bit of heresy going on there, Dustin, a little bit of heresy. Jokes aside though, absolutely fantastic army. Love the conversions. You've got the Beast Riders, which I imagine could do dual duty as Rough Riders and as Atalan Jackals, and you've got the all the different Beastman models. I love the fact that they look really chaotic now, and a lot of them do. And it looks so good. The mixture of Beastman parts and Genestealer parts works so well. And some of the conversions, like those Sentinel chainsaws as rock swords, are absolutely fantastic. So really, really good example of how a custom army, if done right, you can use it as both like a guard army and as a Genestealer cult army, which is kind of going to be the theme of today's video. So thank you for sending in these pictures, Dustin. Absolutely fantastic as usual. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. So what are we talking about today? It's Genestealer Cult, but it's Guard. What are we talking about? Well, guys, I have been doing some extensive playtesting, and I've been trying out this concept of Genestealer Cult that wish they were Imperial Guard. That's what I've been trying out, guys. So it's the Genestealer Cult army, which has no mutants in it whatsoever. None. And instead, we take the principles of the Guard, which is shooting the shit out of people and being quite difficult to tie up in close combat, and we apply that to the cult. Because the cult can they can play the Guard at their own game. And I've been using this army for a few weeks now, since I had that tournament where I tried it out. And it's the way forward, guys. It is really, really good. And the best thing about it is you can use your totally normal Guard models in the army. There's only a couple of you. You could take all your infantry you have now and you could just use them, and you wouldn't need to do any converting or mutating or anything like that. Okay? Have I got your interest? Have I got your interest? Because what I'm essentially saying, guys, is use the Genestealer Cult Codex as a supplement, because supplements are all the rage these days, for the Imperial Guard Codex. Does that sound good? Does that sound interesting? Let me talk you through it. So, there are two conversions you're going to have to do. Okay, there are two. And that is, you're going to have to come up with two models that can represent Patriarchs. Alright? Now, I know of one straight off the bat. Is the Inquisitor Karamasoff model from the Inquisition set. So from the Inquisition army. So if you go to on the Games Workshop website, if you go to Inquisition, it is Inquisitor Karamasoff, and he is basically an Inquisitor in a big walking throne. He is. I have one of these models. He is perfect for a Patriarch. Absolutely perfect. Excuse me. Now, you're going to have to come up with a second option. Now, I'm not sure yet, but I imagine, you could convert a Sentinel into kind of a walking pulpit and put a priest on top of it. That would be really easy to do. That would be really, really easy to do. And I'm sure there's plenty of walking models out there that you could do. A Penitent, you could use a Penitent engine from the Sisters of Battle set. That is, again, a big old model, which is good in close combat. That could definitely work. You could use something like that, and it's got a person strapped to it. You know, and so you need to. So that's the first thing. I'm going to get the heresy out of the way first. You are going to need to come up with 2 models that can represent patriarchs. Okay, but after that, it's pretty much plain sailing. So what the army is, guys, and I've mentioned this a couple of times now, but I've actually play tested it, and I'm bringing back, you know, tactics from the front line. Is you take a pure. There's 2 ways to run this, but you take a pure infantry Genestealer Cult army, and you just take basically neophytes. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to take 12 20-man squads. Okay, so that's 240 guys. So yes, if you are the kind of person that already has a pure infantry army, it's relatively easy for you to switch over to this. But if you don't, this is definitely something you're going to have to work towards. But so you take 240 neophyte. Well, you take 12. How I've worked out best to do it is you take 12 20-man squads. Now, 9 of those squads are neophytes. Okay? And in each one of those squads, you take 2 mining lasers and 2 grenade launchers. Now, obviously, the grenade launchers, you don't need to do any converting there. The mining lasers, what I found works really, really well if you want to use guard models for mining lasers, is melter guns. Because if you go to the Games Workshop website again and you look at the Cadian heavy weapon sort of blister pack that you can get, that guy who's got the sort of the melter gun that he's holding it, hip firing it, that works really, really well. But melter guns in general work fantastically as long as it's consistent across the whole army. You've got no problems using them. Now, I did speak to a TO who said it would be best if you could do a little converting on it. But I said to him, well, what about just getting a little bit of tubing and extending the barrel of any melter guns? And he said that would be perfect. That all you need to do, a little bit of plastic card or tubing or something. That's all you need to do just to extend the barrel on your melter guns. Now, don't forget, guys, if you're thinking, well, that's a lot of melter guns I'm going to have to buy. That's 18 melter guns I'm going to have to acquire. Don't forget you have the Space Marine sprue. It's not Space Marine sprue, Space Marine special weapon blister you can get, which I think is £6, and you get 5 melter guns. You can also do it with plasma guns as well. You can use plasma guns or melter guns. It doesn't really matter, but as long as you pick one. The key is to pick one. You can't be mixing plasma and melter because they look like 2 separate weapons. Okay? So you have your 18 melter guns or 18 plasma guns. I think melter's easier to convert slightly though. Okay? So you have those 9 squads, and they've got 2 mining lasers and 2 grenade launchers in each one. And then you have 3 squads of 20 Brood Brothers, and these are from the Cult Codex as well. Now, Brood Brothers are not as good as Neophytes. They don't benefit from the Cult trait, but they are cheaper. They are 1 point cheaper. They're essentially good conscripts, guys. Think of these guys as conscripts. You've taken them in 20-man squads, and they can take 2 special weapons, and they can take a heavy weapon, and they're 4 points model, but they hit on 4s. They don't hit on 5s like conscripts. And they've got leadership 8. But bear in mind that they're going to be fearless because of the Patriarch most of the time. So the reason you don't take all neophytes is partly because of you need to offset some of the points cost, because those mining lasers are expensive. For 20 guys with 2 mining lasers and 2 grenade launchers, you're looking at 130 points. Now, if you compare that to an Imperial Guard squad, if you were taking 2 las cannons and 2 grenade launchers in 10 men, you'd be looking at 126 points. It's 40 points plus 20 plus 3. That's 63 times by 2, 106. So you are spending, 4 points more. And obviously your mining lasers have only got a 20. For those of you that don't know what mining lasers are, they are essentially a 24-inch range las cannon. They have strength 9, AP minus 3, d6 damage, but they're only 24-inch range. Okay, but they are only 12 points, so you offset that cost. They are 8 points cheaper, which is why overall the squad comes to 4 points more expensive, because you've got 24 points on your 2 manning lasers. So it is a little bit more like I said. So you've got your 2 grenade launchers, your 2 manning lasers. They pack some serious punch. Serious anti-tank. You're basically taking an army which has got 18 las cannons in it. That's pretty hardcore. Don't forget you've got 18 grenade launchers in there as well. And then what I did with my Brood Brothers squads is I just took two flamers in each squad to make them 92 points. And the reason I took those is because those Brood Brothers are essentially sacrificial. Because you might be thinking, isn't it not worth just spending the one extra point to get your cult trait, to be able to benefit from the Jackal Alphas, which we'll talk about in a moment, and to benefit from the 6 Feel No Pain from the Icon Ward, which we'll talk about in a moment. But, and yeah, you would be right, it is worth it, but you have to accept that, you know, some of you guys are going to die before they really achieve their goal. And if you can make it where it's the Brood Brothers which are dying, then that's good, because it means you're not wasting points. You're essentially taking cheap infantry that you don't mind that they die. Like I said, I took 2 flamers on my squads because I found that if I was facing assault armies, it was good to have that little bit of assault deterrent and to soften the enemy up. But you could easily take them bare bones, and you could easily, you know, spend those 12 points whatever you wanted. Essentially, it's 12 points worth of upgrades you're going to give them. Now, so what you're looking at, guys, is you've got 9 squads of neophytes, 20 men in each one, 3 squads of Brood Brothers, 20 men in each one. Okay, now you have to have character support to back this up. Now you take 2 patriarchs. Okay, now the patriarchs, the reason you take them really is because you want the fearless bubble. Everyone who is within 6 inches of a patriarch, and bear in mind they've got a big base, 6 inches of a patriarch is fearless. So that's like getting the old Commissar rules back. That is nice. So that's the main reason you take them. Now, patriarchs can do psychic powers. Honestly, guys, I just use smite. I self-restrict myself a little bit, and I just use smite. Because I essentially say that's the shooting of that guy. He's just doing a couple of wounds every turn. And it's only an 18-inch range. Or if you really want to restrict yourself, don't use any psychic powers. But I just use this. I see the Patriarch as a close combat psyker, but who the main reason you're taking him is you want that fearless buff. If he does any damage, actual damage, that's almost a bonus. You're literally taking him because you want a pretty tough fearless bubble support character. Now on top of that, you want to be taking 2 Acolyte Icon Wards. These guys are really cheap. They're 53 points, which I know by guard standards is kind of expensive, but they're 53 points. And what these guys do is they allow you to, they give everyone who's a member of the cult, so not the Brood Brother guys, unfortunately, but everyone who's a member of the cult gets a 6-up Feel No Pain. Now that is fantastic. 6-up Feel No Pain. It honestly, when you've got 240 guys and 180 of them are benefiting from the 6-up Feel No Pain, it really makes a difference. Those 2 Acolyte Icons, they're 106 points. They get their points back. They're fantastic. Now, as an added bonus, what they also do is they allow you to re-roll morale tests. Now, that often doesn't come into effect simply because you've got the Patriarch, but sometimes you might have a squad that's slightly isolated off on its own, who's already taken a few casualties, so just having a simple re-roll really makes the difference. It's a bonus that rarely comes into effect, but when it does, you often find it saves your ass. But you're really taking them for the 6-up Feel No Pain. Now, last but not least, you need to be taking Jackal Alphases. These guys, and actually technically the model is a girl, is a sniper rifle guy on a bike. I should say, sorry, obviously with the Acolyte Icon Wards, all you need to represent those guys, they're banner bearers. They just have the flag, they have the icon of the cult. Couple of flags. How often in your guard army have you wanted your regimental standards to actually do something worth a damn? Well, now they do. Now they do. They give you a 6-up Feel No Pain. Those flags are better than guard flags. Now moving on back to the Jackal Alphases, again, couple of Rough Riders. You know, couple of Rough Riders, or you can just, they don't look particularly cultish. You can use the Atalan model. It's very easy to convert, you know, a cavalry guy with a rifle. You just need a couple of cavalry people, a couple of bikers. Now, what these Jackal Alphas do is they allow you to pick an enemy unit and get +1 to hit against that enemy unit. Now that is really, really good in the shooting phase. So suddenly, all those neophytes are hitting on 3s. Okay, hitting on 3s. So those mining lasers, which were, only hitting on 4s, which is a big downside of last cans, now they're hitting on 3s. That's really, really good. Really potent. And because you've got 2 of these Jackal Alphas, you can do that twice. You can mark 2 targets and do it twice. So you can get +1 to hit against 2 enemy units. Really effective. Now the last piece of the puzzle is you take, well, not quite, the last model that you're taking is you're taking a Kelemorph. Now what a Kelemorph is, guys, he's a gunslinger. He's got 3 pistols, and every time he shoots with them, he gets to shoot again. Really powerful. But that's not the main reason you're taking him. The main reason you're taking him is if he kills an enemy model, which he really should do, if he kills an enemy model, everyone within 6 inches of him gets reroll 1s to hit. Okay, now you combine that with the fact that you give one of your patriarchs the Hive Lord Warlord trait, which is unique to the Hive cult, which is what you want to be taking anyway. Hive cult Warlord trait, which allows you to reroll 1s to hit. You've got everyone within 6 inches of your patriarch rerolling 1s to hit in the shooting, and everyone in 6 inches of the Kelemorph rerolling 1s, which essentially means you've got all those neophytes, those 180 guys, all hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. Then you combine it with the fact that Hive Cult have a copy of Overlapping Fields of Fire. It's called Chilling Efficiency. And if you do a wounded enemy model, you can get another +1 to hit against it, which means either against a 3rd enemy unit, you can have hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, or against one enemy unit, you can hit on 2s, rerolling 1s. Now that is insane levels of firepower. That's insane levels of accuracy. Because we did a video on this earlier, guys, about quantity and quality in the same list. This is how you can do it. And like I said, no mutants in sight. No, just a couple of count-sized patriarchs, and the rest of it you can use your standard guard collection. Which is fantastic. So you've got a couple of how you use this army, guys, is you essentially deep strike 120 guys. Okay, you deep strike 120 guys. You deep strike the Kelemorph, a Banner Bearer, a Jackal Alphas, and a Patriarch. You deep strike 1/2 of your army. The other half, you have your 60 Brood Brothers and 60 other neophytes, and then they have a Patriarch keeping them in line, and an Acolyte Icon Ward to give the neophytes 6 of feel no pain, and the Jackal Alphas to give them +1 to hit. Now, the reason you want to do it like this, guys, is because essentially you can mix and match, you can play around how you want to do this, but if you're facing an assault army, you definitely want to have your Brood Brothers up front. They are sacrificial cannon fodder. You want them to take the brunt of the force. And all you want to do turn 1 is to find a cheap, easy to kill enemy unit, something like a 5-man scout squad or something, and you just want to kill it. That's the only aim of the game for turn 1, because all you're trying to do is get first blood. That's all you want to do. Now, if you're facing a shooty army and you think you've got some good cover, you might want to start with all your neophytes on the board just so that you can get your own good shooting up. But remember, you've only got an effective 24-inch range, and on a lot of boards that can mean you're struggling to get your mining lasers into range turn 1. So, but not always, not always. Now, let's say, but then essentially, guys, all you're doing is fishing for first blood turn 1. Any damage you do on top of that is an added bonus. Now then, unlike a pure infantry guard army, which would have to spend turn after turn after turn, foot slogging it up the board, and every 6 inches it advances, getting killed back 3 inches, GSC Occult don't have to worry about that, because your first 120 guys are just there to grab some objectives, get first blood, and have a battlefield presence to stop you from getting zoned out too much. Then turn 2 rolls around, and your next wave of guys comes in, 120 guys. Or, you can bring in 80 and save 40 for later. You've got that tactical flexibility. But they just deep strike in, guys. They just deep strike in. So unlike, like I said, unlike a regular guard, just to spend turns slogging up the field, Jesus of the Cult, they just pop up where they're needed. And guess what, guys? They pop up in rapid fire range. And you've got a couple of stratagems that you want to use. One called Lying in Wait, which allows you to pop up 3 inches away from the enemy unit instead of 9. Now, you can't charge after doing that, but that means you can get a squad nice up close onto an enemy objective, probably, and definitely in rapid fire range. Because when you think about it, if you're trying to deep strike in 120 guys, you're going to struggle to get everyone within 9 inches within rapid fire range. So if you do this with a 20-man blob, and you go 3 inches away, that definitely takes some of the crowding problems away. Also, the turn that a unit comes in, you can spend 3 CP and they can shoot the turn they come in. Now, they won't get the +1 to hit buff from the Jackal Alpha, so they will just be hitting on 4s, but they will still get to reroll 1s if you're near that Patriarch, who's got the reroll 1s Warlord trait. So, you know, it's definitely... So for 3 command points, you get a free round of shooting with a 20-man blob. And considering you've got 3 battalions in this army, so you've got 80 command points, it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it to get a few extra shots off with 2 extra mining laser shots. You know, definitely worth it. I've done it. I do it once every game that out of 3 games I've done. Well, 3 games since the tournament I've used this army, and it's been worth it every single time. And I did it every single game of that tournament, and that was 5 games. So, yeah, it definitely works. It's a good strategy. So what I tend to find is I like to have my 120 guys in the field, and then I bring in a nice big attack wave. I bring in 80 guys on a flank, and I just, you know, I really put some pressure on there, and then I often find it's a little overcrowded. So what I'll do is I'll keep 40 guys back. And then in turn 3, I bring in another 40 guys. There's very few armies out there which can deal with that just wave after wave after wave of guys. Now, some of you will be saying, how do you get past the half points for deep striking guys in? Because obviously your Brood Brothers are on the field, so they're cheaper, and then you've got the extra character in deep strike. GSC will have a stratagem that let you do that, guys. You can start off with guys on the board, and before the turn begins, you can put them into deep strike, and they have Games Workshop has confirmed it lets you get past the reinforcement limit. Genes to the Cult have a trick for everything. But you're not running these as Genes to the Cult. You're just running them as an alternative. It's basically, guys, like having the old 2nd edition Katachan supplement back. That's what it is. You've got guys that are just ambushing all over the place. Now, I have tried this army, and it works. It works really, really well. And there's basically 2 different regiments you want to consider using. You want to consider either Hive Cult, because you want to get those reroll 1s. And the Hive Cult also lets you fall back and shoot from combat at a -1. Or you want to consider Cult of the Bladed Cog, because that gives you a 6-up invulnerable save, but you don't suffer the penalty for moving and shooting with heavy weapons, which is... So 6-up invuln save is great. Because it, you know, especially against the new Space Marine doctrines, where everyone's got, you know, -2 Primaris, so having a 6-up invuln save is really good. It's kind of anti-meta. It's really anti-meta, and so you've got the 6-up invuln save followed by 6-up Feel No Pain. That's really going to start hacking off the new fancy Primaris guys. And that the only disadvantage with Bladed Cock is you can't fall back and shoot. So if you get tagged, you know, you're kind of stuck there, which is bad if you're taking 20-man squads. But if you can play the game a little bit and use those Brood Brothers, it's not too bad. Now, you know, Bladed Cog, like I said, they've got the 6-up Feel No Pain, but they can move with those heavy weapons, which is really good because obviously when you're deep striking those mining lasers in, you'd only be hitting on, you know, it's -1 to hit. So it is really, the Bladed Cog, I think, it depends on what kind of army you think you're going to face. If you're going to be facing a lot of assault armies, you probably want to have Hive Cult, and if you're going to be facing lots of shooting, you probably definitely want Bladed Cog. I'm going to try Bladed. I've only used Hive Cult so far because I really want that Hive Cult Warlord trait for reroll 1s to hit. But I'm going to try Bladed Cog this Tuesday. And I'll report back and see which one I think's best. So there you go, guys. Yeah, that is a guard. That is a new kind of guard army. It is not Gene Stealer Cult. It does not play like a traditional Genestealer Cult army at all. It plays like a guard army. Overwhelming shooting, waves of infantry, being able to fall back and shoot, minimum psychic powers, if none. You know, it really is a new way to run your guard. And it isn't heretical at all. It's not heretical at all. It's like, it's just like you're playing guard at the beginning. It's like playing guard at the beginning of 8. You've got your fearless bubbles. You've got your good big squads of infantry. You know, it's like being able to combine squads. It's like being able to combine. This is almost like a 7th edition guard army. This is a 7th edition guard army. You've got blob squads. You've got fearlessness, and you've got the the ability to get off ridiculous amounts of orders. In which this case, falling back and shooting and rerolling ones to hit. Now, a lot of you are saying this is the last point to make, right? The very last point, which is yes, you do miss out on first rank fire, second rank fire. You do miss out on that. That is not to be forgotten. However, bear this in mind, okay? You will be from turn 2 onwards in rapid fire range with nearly your entire army, okay? Think about that, because you're deep striking in, you are in rapid fire range. So unlike first rank fire, second rank fire, where you spend a few turns when you're using it just getting an extra one shot, and then it can take up to turn 3 and sometimes turn 4 to close the distance to get into the 4 shots per guy range, especially if you're facing an enemy gun line. It balances out with the Genestealer Cult because you're always in rapid fire range essentially. So that's how it balances out. And I said, you're always in rapid fire range, and you've got your reroll ones to hit. That's the way to look at it. That is the way the way to look at it. And you're taking a lot. And Genestealer Cult, you're taking a lot less casualties on the way in. You've got more guys shooting without taking the damage. There's less traffic jam. So there you go, guys. I know it's heresy for some of you, but I'm talking about this taking you just normal guard army and just using this, just doing it. I really, really think it's worth considering. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think. I am expecting the usual bout of heresy comments, but honestly, I'm not even looking at this as a cult army. This is a guard army. This is a guard army with a pseudo supplement with pseudo regiment traits. I've been banging on about this for months now. I've now extensively play tested it, and it works, guys. It really works. I highly recommend you go out there, you try it in a few games, proxy a few plasma and melter guns as manning lasers, get loads of grenade launchers under your belt, and try it out. I really recommend it. It might open your eyes a little bit. In this changing meta, where all our toys are getting taken away from us and everyone else is getting better rules than us, sometimes you've got to make a deal with the devil. And I think this is meta changing, genuinely meta changing. Imperial Knights have kind of fallen out of favour now, simply because there's a lot out there which can take care of them. There's still obviously some top knight lists and you're still facing with tournaments, but this list can take care of them. 18 lads cannons a turn, hitting on 3s, rolling 1s. Sometimes hitting on 2s, rolling 1s. Bladed Cog has the Warlord trait like Old Grudges. You've got... This is a really potentially meta-breaking army, and I'm going to start taking this to the next tournament I go to. I'm taking this army, no doubt. I'm already signed up to a teams tournament next year. This army's coming. And there's a few other armies in January that I want to go to. I'm taking this army, no doubt. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.